Ashley. Oh my God, girl. I'm so excited to be doing this with you today. This is so exciting. Welcome to the pod, girl.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. This is so incredible. I can't wait to do the dang thing with you here today.
I know. I'm so excited. It's so cool because now I'm like the interviewer. And for the listeners, last month, Ashley had this incredible virtual summit that I was a guest speaker on, and she was actually interviewing me. So the roles have reversed, and this
Wow,
is
the roles
cool.
have switched.
Yes.
Exactly. But this is fantastic. This is what this is all about, and I'm so excited to collab with you and see what we can come up here with here today, and just really let it flow.
I know. I'm so excited. So, real quick, you guys, Ashley is my dear friend. She is my business bestie, and she's also my personal trainer. And she is quite the woman. So I'm so excited for you guys to be learning from her today. We're going to be diving deep into work-life balance because Ashley wears a lot of hats, like a lot of hats. And if you guys have been starting to come up with some excuses around, oh, I don't have the time for this, I don't have the time for that, Ashley is going to like debunk any of that and call you out because you guys, I'm just going to let her introduce herself of the amount of hats that she has to wear because it is a lot and it's so admirable to just see a woman so in her power while managing all of these different hats you have to wear. So, Ashley, why don't you give a little bit of background about who you are and all of these hats you're wearing in your life right now?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for all that really great intro here. You really kind of set the foundation to step right into. So, guys, my name is Ashley Soden. I'm the owner and founder of Empowered Bodies, which is a platform for virtual coaching where I teach empowerment through fitness. And but I'm a coach. I'm a virtual coach, but I'm also a lot of other things, like Sarah was saying. So I'm a mom. I have a 2-year-old who is all over the place, running me crazy, right?
She's
I'm a
so
wife.
cute.
Yeah, she is my little nugget. Her name is Stella Rose. She's my light in this world. She's the thing that has really pushed me to get organized with my time, which we're going to talk a lot about here today, I'm assuming. As Sarah knows, a lot of these things are really just all interrelated. So I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, but I'm also a friend, I'm a spouse. I'm a competitor. An athlete, so I compete in bodybuilding. So I dabble in a lot of different things. But I actually, let me step back. I hate the word dabbling because I really don't like to dabble. I
Mm-hmm.
like to master. And so I think a part of, going in all these different sectors and having all these different hats and responsibilities and roles that I step into requires a certain level of mindfulness and organization when it comes to intention with your time. And I'm assuming, Sarah, I don't want to like jump the gun here, but I'm assuming that we're going to end up talking a lot about these tactics of how you can wear and step into these roles in different capacities without reaching a point of burning out and without compromising your other endeavors.
Nailed it. Yes, that's exactly what I would love for you to teach the listeners on today because I feel like, and you said the word right there, like you are such a master in any craft that you put your mind to. And so I'm so glad that you intentionally like corrected that, dabble into master because when I look at you, like everything that you do, you master and it's beautiful and it's so admirable. Like I look up to you in that so much because it's very easy for someone to like, oh, touch a little bit of here, but kind of half-ass it. And then they do a little bit there, half-ass it there. So yes, that is the course that I would love for this podcast to go. And yeah, if you want to speak a little bit about like the mastery side of it.
Yeah, let me speak into that for a quick second. When I say mastery, I don't want to misconstrued what I mean by the word mastery. So I don't want you guys to think that when I say, "Oh, I'm indulging in mastery in these different sectors," that I think that I'm on this pedestal looking down on those who are not really at that level, or that I don't have any room to grow in those areas. What I
Mhm.
mean by mastery is taking the deliberate approach of not just dabbling in that sector, a striving to get better, evolve, and to not perfect, but come as close to that as possible to be able to, grow and help other people and inspire other people in this process as well. And so dabbling in contrast would be kind of dipping your toes in the water, right? Being like, oh yeah, I think I want to do fitness, but like, I'm not really willing to look at my nutrition, or I'm not really willing to do this, or I'm not willing to sacrifice, going out to the bar, right? Like all these different things that are pretty socially like normal things for people to do, that really requires like this level of what are my goals and what are the intentions around it, and how can I create this scenario where I can become the master. I'm not yet saying that I have fully 100% mastered every single one of these things. It's that I have chosen the pathway to want to be the master of those things. And one thing that is glaringly evident with regards to this, especially wearing many hats, is when you try to be the master of everything simultaneously at the same time, you will be the master of none of those things. And so this requires a severe ability to tap into time management skills and compartmentalize yourself and almost step into different identities at different points of your day as you block that out. And that inherently will allow you, when you step into that identity, to become that master in that thing at that time when you're blocking out all of the other parts of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I actually really enjoy the fact that you just said step into these different identities, because have you read the book, The Alter Ego Effect by, I think it's
I
Scott
have
Herman?
not. I have not, but it's actually on my book list of books that I'm going to be reading, because in my interviews with the different experts for the summit that you mentioned that I hosted last month, it was a prevalent recommendation to
Yeah.
read this based on the language that I speak. People were like, "Have you read this book? It sounds like you have," and it sounds pretty aligned. So I definitely will be, Sarah. Sarah.
Yes, I am so excited for you to read it because, well, first of all, like the listeners too, I would highly recommend this book. It's very, very insightful for, like, honestly, just not giving excuses like, oh, I can't be this, I can't be that, I'm not meant for that, that's not me. And instead, it's creating this literal alter ego, which is a separate identity that allows you to compartmentalize who you think you are compared to who you want to be and how you want to show up as. And so there's different identities that you can play with. Like, okay, I'm going to put on my mom hat, and you have this totem that's like, I don't know, maybe it's a hat or something. And when you put your hat on, you're showing up and you step into the role as a mom. When you have, I don't know, like for me, one of my totems is hoop earrings. When I put my hoop earrings in, that's my activation for full on, selling mode, power mode. Like that's the character that I play whenever I slip my hoops in. It's like the most confident version of myself. So yeah, when you just said that, I was like, oh, that's like very aligned with Scott Herman's message of like just playing those different identities in your life, because you can be it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing though, a lot of people the first time that I mentioned this to somebody, it was funny. The reaction that I got was, Ash, it sounds like a personality disorder. Like you got a lot of different things going on up there. But it's actually not so fantasy related or diagnosable, if you will. It's very real. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example here. I am married, and I've been married for going on, wow, gosh, almost 6 years now. And that will be in April, will be 6 years. It's
Oh,
incredible.
amazing.
It feels like yesterday. It's crazy.
Oh, that's good. You're having fun.
But yeah, exactly. So, part of my role of being a spouse is, being a lover, right, to my husband, and building this passion with him. Now, am I going to do that with my clients and with my daughter? Right? No, you're going to wear your
Mhm.
business entrepreneur hat when you need to do that. You're going to wear the mom hat when you need to do that. You cannot be a lover to your child, right? Otherwise, there's gonna have some
Exactly.
issues there. Right.
Yes.
So it's an example. Like we do this anyway, and a lot of times we're very unconscious to it. And when we bring out this conscious aspect and become cognizant of these roles that we step into, now you can expand upon that. And like you said, I didn't even think about doing that with totems, like having these like it's like this token of I'm now in this role, right? It's like this
Yeah.
visual almost symbol that is this like key, this call to action to step into that role, right?
Exactly.
So I love that you said that. I think that is such like a beautiful, like creative way to embody that identity that you're in.
Yeah.
It's so powerful when you do that, because especially when you're setting your environment, or you're setting like this, the whatever the situation is, right? If you're in mom mode and you're around, kids all day, and there's toys all over the place, and you're downstairs and stuff like that. If you're going to try and work around kids where there's toys thrown all over the place, you're not going to step into that role, right? And so you need to be able to remove yourself from that atmosphere where you are in that role or in that identity, and put yourself into a atmosphere that is conducive to that identity that you are trying to
Mhm.
embody at that time. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I think it's a really important factor too, because your environment is such a like big factor of your energy and how you show up. Like, I mean, I know personally, if my room's a mess, my mind's a mess,
Oh, yeah.
you know? And I think it's really like, for example, before we started this podcast, I have my boyfriend, laying in the bed, and I'm like, like I can't wait to just have my own space, which by the way, 5 more days and I will. So excited. But
So
I
it's
know that that's going to lead to like exponential growth and allow me to like, okay, when I'm in my office, I'm in business mode. When I'm in the bedroom, I'm in the bedroom mode. Right. So yeah, atmosphere has such a big component to it. Um, and I'm curious too, as a mom, like how do you step out of like the role of a mom, or how do you even step out of the role of a CEO and tend to and nurture your daughter, and then also like, all right, I nurtured, I loved, and I also got to provide and make some massive amounts of money so that I can provide the life that I want to her. How do you like compartmentalize those two?
Yeah, great question. It is not without effort. It is a very it's a difficult thing to do, but it takes intention. And it's difficult at first. Let me say it that way. The
Yeah.
more you do it, the easier it gets. This has been something that I have evolved through time. I was not always so good at this, right? This is like trial and error, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't work. And hopefully for the listeners here, you guys can listen to and learn from my experiences and collapse time for yourself, so that you can do it in a shorter amount of time.
Yes.
And so one of the things that helps me be able to do that is time blocking. And time blocking is nothing more than essentially exactly what it sounds like: blocking out certain periods of time throughout your day to step into that role or identity that you need to embody fully and show up fully in that capacity. And so, what that looks like is having very strict boundaries with yourself when it comes to what time you start and stop that identity, if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, my daughter, I get her up in the morning, and I bring her over to school. She's 2, she's in a early like learning, it's kind of like an early learning daycare school type of a center. So she goes there throughout the day. So in the morning time, it's full blown mom mode, right? I'm playing with her. I'm not on my phone. I'm not doing work stuff. I'm not checking my Instagram. I'm not replying to DMs, right? It is boundaries, right? You put these boundaries in place for yourself, and you put literally everything else away, and you step into that role. So in the mornings, I am mom mode, right? I'm playing with her, and what does she get to experience? She gets to experience her mom, who's fun and loving and like dancing and like singing with her and like making
Yeah.
breakfast in the morning and like doing like all these like amazing things for her to have that memory of our interactions, that experience of our life together. Now, if I weren't to do that, if I were to allow the CEO to kind of like take over, which is a very easy thing to do, what she
So
would
easy.
see, yeah. So what she would see would be my face in my phone, or me not listening or adhering to her needs, and feeling maybe even possibly neglected. So super important, especially for those moms who are listening, to really like compartmentalize mom mode and prioritize that. But it also doesn't mean putting everything else on the back burner, right? So that's mom mode in the morning. I bring her to school and I come home, and then I step into business mode, right? So that's business owner. And I actually break my day into two parts when it comes to my business. So I have working within my business and working on my business. And so what I mean by working within my business is working within my current spectrum of clientele, my current spectrum of services that I offer, and really giving my full undivided attention to those people who need my assistance, who really come to me for that help, my current clients.
Yeah.
The other part to that, the working on my business, that's where the future comes in, right? Like scaling the business, this future vision, the mission just evolving before our eyes and materializing, and really just scaling the value that you're able to bring to this world. Um, I also block out time specifically for, I know you asked about mom versus business, but I'm a very firm believer on, it's not just one or the other, right? It's
Yeah.
everything all together intertwined. And so I have mom mode, I have business mode, but I also have other modes too. And if we neglect those other modes, something tends to falter. So we need this element of balance, right? And so what are the other elements that we need for balance? Self-care, social or family time, at like in addition to mom time, obviously. I
Yeah.
kind of separate that. Um, and then personal development. Those to me are the big things. Now, this might be different for everybody else. Somebody may have a different set of priorities, or maybe they go to school, right? And they have to have school work time, right? Or whatever it is that it
Totally.
is that they have going on. But at the end of the day, the way that I'm able to go into these identities, as you've asked, Sarah, is being able to set these time blocks for myself, assessing my schedule, taking a look at what's working, what's not with honesty, because it's really easy to be like, hey, I'm going to do, going to wake up at 4 a.m. and do yoga first thing in the morning and do this and this and this and this. But if you're going to bed at 2 a.m., good luck. You're not going to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I would
Like,
hope not.
right, exactly. So it requires this element of like, this process of getting to this point of understanding where those time blocks should fit into your day is an ever evolving spectrum, and it also shifts depending on if your schedule and life circumstances shift, which typically they do.
They do.
So for me, like, I tend to reassess this as needed. So sometimes I even do this on a week to week basis. But for the most part, at a very minimum, I reassess my schedule on a monthly basis, unless I'm prompted or feeling the resistance some other place. So tuning into what promises you're making to yourself in terms of what times you're going to step into those roles. And if you're not adhering to those, asking yourself with honesty, why? And that answer will kind of lead you down how to handle that situation. Is it a preparation issue, or is it that it's not the right time of day, or is it that maybe it's just not realistic time frame to, like, you could sit here and say I'm going to do yoga for 23 hours of the day. Is that realistic? No, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need to have like the element of tangibility, to be able to execute with balance.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was taking notes while you were talking because there was so much value in that. So you guys, if you caught on to everything, then amazing. If not, rewind what she was just saying. And we're going to unpack more of what she was saying, but seriously, like just listening to you, that was so powerful. Like I even took notes because it's that important. And one of the first things that you had mentioned was your commitment to doing your commitment to your boundaries rather.
Oh yeah.
And this is so wildly important. And as you mentioned too, it's not like just, mother mode and business mode. You're also a friend, you're also a lover, you're also, a learner. And there's so many different roles that you get to play. Your commitment to your boundaries, it's like this level of self-respect. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
could not say that any other way. This entire process is out of self-love,
Yes.
and self-respect. It's saying I know that I'm worth and capable of mastering the things that I want to master. And here's how I'm going to organize my time to be able to do that for myself.
Yep.
And inherently, the irony here is it ends up helping other people too.
Of course. Yeah, it has that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just wildly important because I know for me, the first thing that do or the first thing I want to do when I wake up in the morning is check my phone. But I also know consciously that when I check my phone, I end up getting scatterbrained. I end up being less focused. I end up getting sucked in, and that takes my time. The algorithm, the science behind the algorithm. So I am respecting myself enough to not look at my phone until I'm going into business mode. And what's funny too is actually, Ashley yesterday asked if we could do this interview at 8 a.m. my time. But I had set a boundary with myself that I was not going to start working until 9 a.m. And I could have easily said, like, yeah, for sure. Like, let's just do it at 8 a.m. I'll make it easy for you, right? Kind of going into that people pleasing mode. But if I would have done that, then I would have not respected myself, not respected my boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. When you sent me that message, you were like, "Well, I'm setting boundaries for myself." So
Yeah.
at this time, I was like, "Okay, girl, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's up." That's seriously, that's what this is about, is holding firm to those boundaries and sticking your ground and not people pleasing. This was something that I struggled with, man, for so long. People
Yeah.
pleasing. It's like all I wanted to do was help people, and so it's natural. It comes from a good place, but it's a faulted methodology of being able to
Absolutely.
help people by conforming to everybody else, and basically neglecting the basic needs of yourself, or
Mhm.
basic organization that you require at that level.
Yeah. And why don't you tell them what the consequences of lacking boundaries and lacking this level of your commitment to your boundaries and people pleasing? Like, what are the consequences of doing that?
Well, let me just speak into how I felt whenever I was in that role, because that's really, I feel like, the best way that I can explain this is to just like portray from that pain center of what that felt like for me. And you know it's painful. It's not,
Mhm.
you're totally in disalignment with who you are, because now you're trying to be pulled or fit this mold of, okay, I should be this, I should be doing this, I should be here at this time, but I really want to be doing this, but I should be doing this. And you're doing a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Mhm.
and you're not in alignment with your true calling. And then what does that do? It has a total cascade of a bunch of things. It'll leave you scatterbrained. It'll leave you feeling disorganized. It'll also, on a deeper level, leave you feeling like you're being taken advantage of, even if people aren't doing that.
Mhm.
It was really easy for me to feel like, man, like nobody respects my time. But you know what? It was me. I wasn't respecting my time. That's so important. And when you realize that, so it's so life changing.
Yeah, you just gave me chills. That just gave me
I give
chills right
myself
there.
those.
Yeah, because
It's
it's
true
true.
though. Yeah,
Yeah. It's so true. And I can't express to you enough like how like you said, the pain it literally causes you, the suffering that you endure when you don't commit yourself to your boundaries.
yeah,
And it's not sufficient. It's just not. Maybe short term, it feels good because you get that quick, like, oh, I'm doing everything that everyone wants me to do. And I'm getting all the praise and all this stuff. But at some point, you are going to feel resentment towards other people. And that's not up to them. Like you are the one, lacking boundaries. You have to take ownership of that, take responsibility for your decisions and for your actions. That's something too, Ashley, that you so beautifully do. Like seriously, it's so powerful to see someone just be like, no, like this is where like I have work to do, right? This is where I can improve. Now, how can someone like get to that point? Because I feel like a lot of people might be in the dark, and this can kind of be like a harsh little reality for them to face, that they're the creator of their reality and they are the ones that have to set these boundaries. It's not up to anyone else but them. Where can they start with this?
that is a very heavy and deep question, because it might be different for different people.
Mhm.
For me, where I started on this journey of getting organized with my time and my boundaries, I had to take a look at my pain. And it required me to lean into that pain and understand and identify where my responsibility lied within that pain. It's
Mm-hmm.
really easy to cast the blame on other people, right? To say, this person's doing this to me, or almost fall even like unconsciously into a victim mindset
Totally.
of, being like just, the victim in this situation. And really, it's the pain that you're feeling. Nobody's making you feel that pain. You're experiencing that pain because you're not honoring your boundaries are really
Mm-hmm.
required for you to not feel that pain. You do hold the power. For those who are listening, you hold the power, whether you're aware of it or not, to remove this pain from your life. It's just about, how do you get organized with that? Step one would be looking at that pain and not trying to suppress it. Experience it, feel it, let it pass through you.
Yeah.
Then take a look and understand, and ask yourself, well, you know, why did this create a feeling of pain for me? Why did this trigger me? Why was that? Was it something from, my childhood? Was it something from my adulthood?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just like bad habits? Or, it could be so many different things.
You're
So
understanding it.
yeah, exploring to understand first, because you can't change what you don't understand. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand it and you're suppressing it and you're burying it and blaming other people, well, you're going to continue on that path. So the first step would be to break it down, understand yourself a little bit better. And guys, spoiler alert, this is work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, a lot of this stuff that, a lot of people refer to this as like light work and stuff like that. It's not like always sunshine and rainbows, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like deep. This is really deep. But you know what's going to happen when you do this is you're going to connect with yourself in a different way. And on the other side of this spectrum, you're going to see what it feels like, and experience what it feels like to actually be fulfilled,
Mm.
being who you're capable of being, and being in alignment with your true calling, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes total sense. And I'm so happy that you spoke to that too, because what's interesting too is I just had a podcast episode with our friend Rashi, and we were talking all about self-love and just experiencing all of the different emotions that are on the human spectrum. And pain is one of them. Pain isn't a bad thing, but if it doesn't feel in alignment with you, then you can choose differently, but you have to allow yourself to feel it first, right? You can't just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Express it.
Pain is like, all right, let's break this down. For those of you who don't know, this is also another part of my skill set here is, I have my degree in behavioral neuroscience, and so I'm about to nerd out on you guys for a quick second.
Woohoo, love it.
From a neurobiological standpoint, the pain within the body is a feedback system. To suppress that is to suppress who you are, right? It's supposed to be there for a reason. It's telling you something. The pain isn't what's bad. It's how you respond to that pain, right?
Yes.
And so you can have that pain push you into a crippling depression where you choose to curl up into a ball and not do anything about it, or you can use that pain to be your driving motivator force to course correct, or
Mm-hmm.
to troubleshoot, or to figure it the fuck out. Excuse my language, but like,
No, you can swear all you want. We're all pro swearing on this podcast.
cool, because you guys are probably just get the unfiltered raw version of me. Sometimes it just comes out, and but that's because it's coming from a place of passion, and I care so much. I just want you guys to realize that the pain that you have, or if you're experiencing, or if you're going through it right now, it doesn't. A lot of the times it feels like it's never going to end, but I promise you, when you give your attention to that pain and you direct that pain, as a motivating factor to remove that pain and identify where it's coming from so that you can remove that, you step into this whole other world of capabilities. You now start this process of co-creating your life,
Yeah.
because now you get to make these choices based on that feedback that you're tapping into of that pain center. And like I said, from the neurobiological standpoint, it's there on, biologically hardwired into our nervous system throughout our bodies, for a reason, and that reason is survival, right? And so when we, coming from an evolutionary standpoint, fear and pain and all of these fight or flight type of senses are stimulated, from our ancestral points where they were being chased by tigers, right? And
Mhm.
having to fend for themselves and get food and be hunters and gatherers and all this stuff. And so we're here now in this day and age, 2021, and those are no longer our set of circumstances, yet our anatomy remains intact from where we came from, right? So we didn't remove that pain. We didn't remove our ability to experience pain or experience fear,
Mhm.
but we don't have those things that are really why it's there to begin with.
Yeah, we need
So
it.
yeah, we need it. It's so important for us. It's not to sit here and say, like, wow, like we as humans, the fact that we experience pain, this and that, and like again, go back down into that like victim mindset. No, this is a beautiful thing. The
Mhm.
fact that we can experience pain, I love that I have fears, right? Like,
Mhm.
what's a fear of mine right now? To sit here and say that I have no fears is absolute bullshit. Of
Bullshit.
course, I have fears. You know what a fear of mine is? Is I have a fear of not making an impact on this world.
Mhm.
So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna make a fucking impact on this goddamn world. Right?
Yes.
See?
Yes,
See how you
mama,
can
I
flip
love
that?
it.
Yeah. You are in control. You are so powerful. So
So
powerful.
powerful beyond measure, truly. And I always like to say too, like, your commitment to pleasure has to be greater than your commitment to pain. And I know a lot of people, like you said, they love being in the victim mindset, right? And what's interesting, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm reading one of his books right now, and biologically, your body actually becomes addicted to the suffering as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy, crazy shit. That still doesn't mean that you don't have power over it. You absolutely have power over it. You just have to have the commitment to pleasure be greater than your commitment to your pain. And to tie it back around to work-life balance, if you're in your life right now and you are experiencing overwhelm, distress, burnout, and feeling that lack of boundaries in your life, take ownership of it so that you can change it, right? Let your commitment to the pleasure be far greater than your commitment to your suffering. You have to
Yeah.
start though with recognizing that, okay, right now I'm not feeling so great and I'm feeling that burnout, overwhelm, stress, etc. You're feeling those things, you're shedding light on the fact that you're feeling these things, and then you take responsibility to change it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I think one of the things too that a lot of people get confused with is when we say, like there's an expression that says meet yourself where you are, or to sit in your pain,
Yeah,
right? And I think a lot of people misunderstand what that means. I think that they, when we say, sit in your pain, I think that they go into victim mindset. They're like, oh yeah, and they start bitching, right?
totally,
Like,
totally.
and when we say sit in your pain, that's not what we mean. When we say sit in your pain, it means I, call it what it is, compartmentalize it, look at it and say, this is the pain I'm experiencing right now.
Mhm.
And then strive to understand it.
Yeah,
And
you're
if you understand,
neutralizing it.
yeah, you're neutralizing it. That's exactly right. Your brain, again, to bring it back to the neurobiological side of things, has a structure in it called the reticular activating system in the brain. And this is a portion of the brain that is responsible for conscious awareness. And what happens is when you give your conscious awareness to something, your reticular activating system in your brain fires away, and it causes your conscious awareness to notice those things more, right? And so if
Mhm.
you're going into victim mindset, what's going to happen is you're going to experience more of that. You're going to experience more pain, more pain, more pain, more pain. But if you're seeking to understand, what are you going to experience? More understanding,
Yep.
right? Big shift.
I love it. Yeah. The reticular activating system, it brings you more of what you want, what you're not necessarily what you want, but what you're focusing on. And
Yes, your conscious awareness.
Yes.
The example that I always use here, and it's a common one that a lot of people use when they're talking about this sort of thing, is, when you go to buy a new car and you don't see it anywhere, and you're just for the first time like, oh yeah, maybe I'll buy that car, and you start driving around, and then all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's always there. It's just that now your conscious awareness is being drawn to it thanks to the reticular activating system in the brain. That which you give your attention to draws more of your attention to that. It's a level of conscious attention and awareness.
Totally. This always happens to me with like new words. Like I'll be reading a book and I'm like, whoa, I've never seen that word before. And then all of a sudden I start seeing it everywhere. And I'm like, have I just been blind to this word before? And the answer is, yeah, I was blind.
Yeah.
I wasn't conscious to it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's so powerful. Okay, Ash, I have another question for you. Going back to what you were talking about earlier in regards to trial and error, right? Battle testing whether or not your structure is going to work for you, your boundaries, your time blocks, as you call them, are going to work with you. And I know that for my clients, most of them are working 9 to 5s and they're also trying to build a business. And so that can be a lot, right? Like a big portion of their day is dedicated to something that they don't really want to be putting their attention on, but that's their current reality and they're choosing to change it. But with the trial and error, what are some things that like they can do to make it the process a little bit easier for them? Because, and I'm just going to give you an example for me, like I have to give myself a lot of like empathy and compassion when I'm going through that trial and error phase, because it's like, it's really challenging and it can feel overwhelming and it can feel scary and all those things. So what would you say, aside from like empathy and compassion, would people listening to this podcast can do to make the process a little less harsh? Or would you say that you can't, it's just, you have to embrace the process?
Well, it's going to be individual for each person, but there's always things to make things easier and more fluid, even in things that are not easy inherently.
Mm-hmm.
So this process of trial and error that you're referring to, it takes a level of listening to your set of circumstances. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you plan out your day and you go through your day, and at the end of the day, maybe you got some stuff done, maybe you didn't, maybe you stuck to your schedule, maybe you didn't, right? But this is where the honesty part comes in, and doing this frequently, and I think that this is the key here, is doing it frequently, is assessing what actually did work and why, and what didn't work and why.
Yeah.
And the key word here is why, because when you miss that part, you just start once again almost trying to people please yourself by like, you've set these boundaries for yourself or whatever. And maybe it's not the right situation. Maybe it's not the right most, optimal schedule for yourself. Right. And so listening to the feedback of like, all right, I'm consistently not able to dedicate, the time that I wanted to after my 9 to 5. I'm consistently like falling asleep. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do here to mitigate this? And it's that feedback, really understanding why.
Yeah.
Right. And so is that a shortcut? Maybe not necessarily. But it is the organized way of doing it in the approach of being cognizant of why you're doing certain things and what's working and what's not. And when you fail to actually listen to that feedback or even reflect on it for that matter, you're doing yourself a disservice, because now you're just, setting the bar at a certain level, not meeting those things. And what's happening is you're telling yourself, I'm not able to meet the demands that I'm putting on myself. You're breaking your self-trust. Your confidence, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is now going to be lower than it would be if you were adhering to your schedule.
Totally.
And so there's a lot at play here. So, the best way that I can do this, and Sarah, let me know if you're okay with me doing this. I can kind of walk you guys through my process for like start to finish of time blocking.
Yeah.
With like that reassessment portion like built into there for those who are listening.
Yes, I would love that. I want to say though, before you dive into that, and so we'll set like a certain time for you to go into that. When you were just going through that and describing it, it really reminded me of, Gary
Yeah,
Vaynerchuk.
of
Okay.
course.
So
Yeah.
he has like his biggest things that he always promotes are self-awareness, humility, patience, and optimism.
Yes.
And I feel like that foundation, that those frameworks that, Gary Vee has developed, and like those main pillars of being successful in a sense, ties so well into figuring out your boundaries and your work-life balance. I think that's like the perfect, like those four things. When you were saying that, it's like, okay, be self-aware, call yourself out. What are you good at? What are you not good at? Collect feedback from your schedule, right? And kind of treating it like this experiment, like this science
Yeah.
project to add some fun and optimism into it.
Yeah.
And then humility, like take ownership of it, and have patience. Like, okay, it's going to take some time to figure it out, and that's okay.
And I think a huge component here, and perhaps we missed this part, but guys, do not miss this part, because the feedback is useless without it. You need to take action, right?
Mm,
Whatever that feedback is, course correct,
yeah.
right? Let's say that I'll give an example of what I did last week, right? I'm always evolving my schedule. This never stops, guys. Okay,
Hmm.
your life is always going in many directions, and so this time blocking, whether you're a master at it or not, it's always happening. And so last week I had a little bit of a shift in my schedule, so I needed to readdress my time blocking. I set out my day, laid it out for the week ahead of me, and consistently I was working an hour later than when I set that boundary for myself.
Mm.
And I had to ask myself, why am I not sticking to that boundary? I'm sticking to all of my other boundaries. What's happening right here? And it turns out it's not that my ability to stick to the boundary, it's that the boundary was misplaced. So
Mm.
I needed to shift that boundary. And so once I shifted that boundary, light bulb, now I'm sticking to my schedule. When I wasn't, what was happening was I was like beating myself up. I was like, God, man, get it together. What the fuck's going on? You're preaching this. Why aren't you able to do the
Yeah.
thing that you're telling other people? And then I said, whoa, hang on, take a step back, reassess.
Mm.
So that's where you tune in and say, well, why? Why am I not able to get to stick that boundary? And the reason is because my workload of my responsibilities led me about an hour over that time frame, with that realism in there,
Yeah.
with my actual workload and responsibilities. So assessing those real aspects of the needs that you need to get things done is a part of this. And then course correcting. And so what I did was I was like, all right, cool, I've identified what I'm not able to stick to, but I have identified what I have been able to do on a consistent basis. So what did I do? I just shifted my boundaries to fit what I was already naturally doing. And what that did was it gave this signal to myself, yes, okay, cool, I have these boundaries that are set. This is now my time block for this thing that I'm doing.
Yep.
And I'm creating self-trust, self-validation, and self-confidence through this process, because my focus is where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, and then I turn it off when I need to turn it off.
Amazing. And I think that's such an important piece to touch on too. Like, okay, you can do all the analyzing in the world, but you got to actually apply.
Yeah.
um, and I also want to say too about the whole trust thing, right? You build self-confidence by keeping your promises. You build trust in yourself through keeping promises. So set those little, and even if they're little to begin with, right? Those little
I
mini goals.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I didn't
No,
mean to
it's
talk
okay.
over you, but if anything, start with little ones. Don't start with big ones, right? Because like when I say little, I mean like make a promise to make your bed, and then make your fucking bed in the morning. How that feels, and do it like just do it for a week. Do nothing else. Make no other promises. Just promise to make your bed. Make your bed for a week,
Yeah,
and then look at yourself and be like, okay, well, I
I
made
can
a
do it.
promise to myself, and I did it. So I'm fully capable of showing up for myself. If I set that intention and then I act on it and then I reflect on it, it's going to build that confidence.
Yeah,
Whether you're like conscious of it or not, it's a subconscious confidence that's being built there.
absolutely.
And conscious as well. But
Totally. Amazing. Okay, so let's dive into your frameworks. Tell us what your step-by-steps are, I guess.
yeah, yes. Okay, cool. So time blocking we're going to break it down into a couple different steps here. So we're going to break it down into 4 different steps. The first step here is to compartmentalize your day. All right. Break down your day into the main components that you do, right? So like, what are those main identities that you fall into? Take a look at your identities and those different hats that you have to put on that we were talking about. Are you a mom or are you not a mom, right? If you're not a mom, you're not going to have like time with your child timed and scheduled in your time block, right? So like make it applicable to you. So what identities, ask yourself, what identities do you have to step into on a day-to-day basis or even on a week-to-week basis if it's not every single day? Those would be how you could first compartmentalize your day. And you want to make this really no more than about 6 different time blocks or identities.
Okay.
If you have about like 15 different identities, what's going to happen is you're probably not going to have enough time in the day to be able to set those boundaries and adhere to them so strictly, because those time blocks will become shorter and shorter and shorter, and it becomes way less wiggle room, and it's going to be over restriction and not fluid. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. No, let's talk about it right now for a quick second.
Love it.
The idea behind this time blocking, I want to kind of give you guys an overarching concept, is that they should be general enough that it should be about, no more than 6. So if you're finding that you're doing more than that, or that you have more than that, ask yourself, can a couple of these things be combined into one generalized topic here? Personal development is an example. There's many different things you can do. I'll provide examples in a couple of the later steps here. But just being an assessment of, what are the identities that you step into? But the idea here is that these time blocks are the structured shell part. This is the structure. Okay. You have this like masculine structure to this portion of your day, but then you have inside of those blocks, inside of that masculine block, you have the feminine fluidity where you get to choose from what you do inside of that time block. Okay. Yes. So I'm going to provide an example here. This is actually going to flow right into step 2. So after step 1, you have compartmentalized your day into your identities. Step 2 is going to be to figure out what types of things are able to be fluid inside of those time blocks. Okay. So for example, if you are doing, working on scaling your business, well, there's a lot of different things that you can do. You don't have to stick to the same thing every single day, right? You can, maybe one day you're feeling more compelled to work on your, ideal client, creating like that avatar so that you know who you're speaking to more authentically. Maybe that's looking like setting up automations so that you can free up some of your time in other ways. Maybe that looks like social media planning and outreach and stuff like that. Or promoting current or even future, content, or creating content. Those would be all things that you can choose from. But the time block, that masculine structure of saying, this is my time from start to finish, my window of time to scale my business, that is masculine in nature. But then you have that fluid feminine, let me feel into what I'm told to do today. What do I feel authentically is just going to let it flow?
Yeah.
And the reason I think that that's so important is that if you don't allow it to flow with how it feels and what feels right, you're going to be met with resistance, and you're going to feel like you're trying to force like a square into a circle.
Totally. Yes. And I have to say too, I have like the biggest smile on my face right now, because I mean, the listeners already know if they've been listening for a while that like I am all about empowered masculine and empowered feminine, because there's also the disempowered masculine and the disempowered feminine. And so I just want to shout you out. Thank you for bringing this to the attention, because you guys, the feminine can't be this empowered feminine without the empowered masculine, right? Like the masculine allows the feminine to be expressive, to flow, to, do the things that it wants to do as the feminine. But without that foundation that the masculine provides, the feminine becomes disempowered, and it's scattered, and you're all over the place. You can't focus. You can't get anything done. You procrastinate. lethargic, right? And that's like that disempowered feminine. So it's not like you're doing one or the other. It's not like you're, oh, I'm feminine or, oh, I'm masculine. You get to be both. And that's where the true magic happens. That's where this divine sacred union happens between the two and where you really thrive. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
speak to that for a moment because it's so powerful. And this is some of the deep work that I do with my clients. And I'm sure that you do as well, because it's like so potent for success in general.
And I would even, just to like kind of piggyback off what we were saying, almost elaborate, I would almost make the argument that, it's not even that you get to be those things. It's that to be in alignment, it requires the balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so inherently, by doing this style of time blocking with the masculine structure to your day, but the feminine fluidity, you have that ingrained naturally,
Yeah.
effortlessly, right? It's part of this process. And so I just want to point that out, that it's my personal belief that you cannot have an imbalance with your masculine and your femininity, and feel in total alignment. There needs to
Totally.
be that balance.
Yeah. At some point, you're going to be in turmoil if you don't have that balance.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So here in step 2, the idea here is to create that femininity, the feminine flow inside of those time blocks. So step 2 is to assign possible tasks for those identities. Literally write them out, right? Write time block number 1, time block number 2, time block number 3, time block number 4, time block number 5, time block number 6. And then list out what those things might look like, might feel like. What are all of the possibilities? And write them all out. You're not going to do every single one of those things every single day, but you're going to be able to reference that list and say, okay, I'm now in my time block for personal development. What do I feel like doing? Let me take a look. Let me take a look at what the possibilities are. And you're going to reference this this list that you're writing for yourself. And you're going to be able to intuitively feel into, what the hell do you feel like doing, right? What do you
Mm-hmm.
feel like doing? This is where you get to play. This is the fun part. Step 3 is to actually physically plan your day, meaning plan where those time blocks go.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it takes an assessment of your personal situation. This might look a little different for each person. In fact, everybody's schedule is, of course, going to be different, but the way you go about this might be a little bit different for each person, depending on how structured you already are or are not with your day.
Mm-hmm.
Some tips here to optimize your day. Just feel into what feels best, as well as where your responsibilities lie, and kind of bring those two things together.
Yeah.
I tend to think that, the responsibilities that you have, in some capacity, you should be able to lean into that and feel that, passion behind that anyway. If not, there's going to be some sort of disalignment, and I would caution you to question why you're doing that thing, or why you have that responsibility, or, that sort of thing. But in any event, either way, you want to take a look at what you want to do, not what you think you should do. Okay. Because there's a lot of should in this world. There is
Yep.
so much should. And a lot of times we think that we need to, we wake up, we go right to work, we come home, we do that, we make dinner, and then we go to sleep, right? And, or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's,
we're on autopilot.
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be that way. What do you like? What would make you more excited to wake up in the morning? What would make you nice and relaxed before you go to sleep?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example of time blocking, organization when it comes to planning your day from a personal side. So for me, when I work on my personal development, for me, it motivates the ever living shit out of me. So it's like when I'm doing personal development, I'm watching TED Talks, I'm doing like online courses, I'm engaging in mentorship. I invest in myself, I do coursework, all of these things that require this level of leveling up and upgrading yourself within personal development. So for me, if I do, and I've made this mistake before, if I put that at the end of my day, what happens is I experience insomnia because I'm ready to go. I'm ready to create. I'm motivated. And so what I found, and I had it scheduled at the end of my day because I was telling myself it's the only time of day I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not the only time of day. I need to take whatever I have in the morning and push it to a different time and rearrange this schedule, right? And so
Mhm.
taking this assessment with yourself, what are the most optimal times and why?
Yeah.
And this might be something that you experiment with, play with. This is the trial and error component of this, to see what works best for you.
Yeah.
Take it, if you're new to time blocking and this is the first time you're doing this, I would say do it 1 week at a time. Of course, if there's something like monumentally catastrophic that's happening in between a week's time, you can do it before that. But at a very bare minimum, if you're new to this, reassess those time blocks on a weekly basis until you get to a more stable like position where you're at least in a little bit of a flow, even if those
Mhm.
boundaries are still kind of like wiggling just a tad. But experiment a little bit and just listen to what works best for your body, your business, like all of those things that you want to thrive. If there's something that's crumbling as a component of the arrangement of where you're placing them, then excuse me, then you probably need to rearrange
Yep.
where that time block is.
Yeah. And I want to say too, Ash, because this is so important and something that I teach to I mean, I said it on the last podcast. I probably say it on every single podcast episode, but it's because it's the foundation of what I teach. And it is prioritizing pleasure.
Yeah.
And you just spoke to that of like, okay, when I am in personal or learning new things and in learning student mode and I'm prioritizing personal development, that lights you up, that fires you up, it fuels you to take more action, to want to make a bigger impact, to make more money, to do X, Y, and Z. And so that right there is proof that prioritizing your pleasure is kind of like the secret to stepping into the role of a leader, to your success, to anything, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is like for me, I am so committed to my morning routine because I know that it makes me feel so good throughout the rest of my day, right?
Yeah.
And a part my morning routine, that's me prioritizing pleasure. I was also going to ask you this around having days scheduled in for play, because I have days scheduled in my calendar for play, but I know this is, and sometimes it doesn't always happen because a part of my play is actually building my business, which is just fucking awesome, right? I get both. But it's also like, okay, I need to shut down business. I don't want to think about it for a minute. And I just want to go and play and watch the sunset and go on a hike and do things that, light my soul up inside. Now, and maybe this is a little personal question, but I have trouble with shutting that business side down because I love it so much, but I know that it will benefit me. Right.
Yeah.
And so I know, like we kind of talked about this, your commitment to your boundaries, but like, what if for business, for example, what if you love doing that thing so much that it can be so hard to like close your laptop at night and stop the working and just go and dance or whatever? Like last night I had a little dance party. How do like, oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how I can actually shut my laptop at night and be in play mode.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that you just brought this up. And I want to start this answer by saying, I hope to God that this is the case for you
Yeah.
because it goes to show that you are in alignment with your calling and your career and stuff like that. And so, congratulations, Sarah, for being in alignment with your
Well,
true
thank
calling and
you.
purpose.
It's
You
what
are
I
so
teach, so I hope that
of course. No,
I
of course,
embody it.
absolutely. But to answer this, this kind of comes back to those boundaries, right? And setting those boundaries for yourself. Now, with regards to those days where, you want to, shut it off and like go and do something adventurous or whatever, I actually build that into my self-care time block.
Amazing.
So, on a week to week basis, my my Monday through Friday, I have my schedule and then I have my weekend schedule and I time block Sunday through Sunday, right? So I time
Perfect.
block even on the weekends. But my weekends time blocking is a little bit different than my Monday through Friday. I have a little bit more self-care on the weekends. And I deliberately don't schedule on Saturday and Sunday, working within or on my business. I
Mm,
shut it off. I give myself the 2 days to be able to shut it off. And personal on a personal note, I know exactly what you're talking about, Sarah, because this is actually the entire reason what got me started with time blocking is
yeah.
because I didn't know how to turn it off. I was so passionate about what I was doing that I was neglecting family time, neglecting self-care time, literally like putting everybody's needs before myself. And
Yeah.
especially for those who you coach, Sarah, and those who are listening to this and building their businesses. I hope that you're so passionate about what you're doing that it's hard to close your laptop.
Yeah. It's a good problem to have.
Really good problem to have, but it's a very real problem, especially when you're passionate about what you do. And so the question becomes, how do you set those boundaries for yourself? It's just reminding yourself that you need to have balance when it comes to your lifestyle, because if you start to compromise that balance, you're going to compromise your energy. When you
Mhm.
compromise your energy, you compromise your value that you're able to give to your clients.
Yep.
So from a business standpoint, if that's what that is about, being able to, I just want to give all my value to my clients. It's just, I have so much on my plate. I'm wearing this business hat right now. I got to show up to the plate. Well, part of that, believe it or not, is stepping away from that, allowing yourself to energetically recharge, whatever that means, and being able to come back to it at a time when you're replenished.
Yeah.
And part of the things that you need to do is self-care. So if you want to go on adventures and stuff like that, for me, you might time block this separately by itself. You might include it as part of your self-care. For me, I include it as part of my self-care because it's a necessity for me to tend to my energetic needs in that way too. And so on the weekends, what that looks like for me is I have bigger time blocks for self-care than I do during the week.
Amazing.
During the weeks, I have self-care. I like to schedule my self-care at the end of the night because some things that I have inside of my self-care time block are meditation, yoga, coconut oil massages.
Oh, yes, girl. You're talking
Yeah,
my language.
yeah, all these things. And I love to, from the strategic standpoint, putting it at the end of the day because it's a wind down. It lets me calm down and go into this nice almost like an ambience state of being where I'm just like embodying like relaxation and like divinity all in one,
Yes.
and then going to sleep like in this energy and waking up like just so revitalized. But on the weekends I still have, inside of that time block, I also have like go on adventures, do this, go that, like try something new, right? Like these, to
Mhm.
me, that's part of your self-care. You need to care for yourself in that way and not neglect it.
Yeah.
So I've written that into my self-care, but I don't necessarily choose that option when it's during the week, Monday through Friday at the end of the day, right? I'm not going to go
Yes.
on a hike at the end of the night on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m., right?
Totally.
So, but on the weekends where I have my self-care scheduled is earlier in the day and it's a longer time block, it's strategic in nature because I know within that time block, I'm going to choose a different option that is more suited for that day or that time or what feels right with what I want to do intuitively. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. Like I'm so happy that we're talking about this right now because especially lately, right? Especially going into the new year, we have all these new goals that we want to up level in business. We want to do that. And and to be completely transparent with you guys, I, as of lately, with my new launch of my new product and my new course and up leveling the embodied coach, it's been hard to turn off, right? It's been harder to prioritize the play and the pleasure because I do find play and pleasure in the work that I do. But I mean, you just so beautifully spoke to the fact that you have to be deliberate. And I love that you use that word, very deliberate with your structure. And that includes what your days off look like.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have not been doing. And I'm so excited to start doing that because I know it's going to just be a complete game changer for me and for the listeners. If you are building a business and you're working a 9 to 5 and you're a mom and you're all of these things, scheduling in days off where you are committing yourself to self-care,
Yeah.
like it's you have to fill up your cup.
It's
And
almost like you have to take that like compartmentalization to it. Otherwise, it's unfortunately too easy to neglect yourself.
so easy. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to make self-care a luxury and not a necessity.
Yeah, it is 100% a necessity, especially if you are running your own show, if
Yeah.
you are running your own business and, showing up in that capacity, because nobody's telling you what to do.
Hmm.
Nobody tells you when to turn it off, when to show up for work, when to clock
Yeah,
out, right?
exactly. I was just gonna say that. You don't have someone be like, okay, you clock out at 5 o'clock, you clock in at 8. Like, no, you get to decide that.
Yeah. Guess who gets to decide that? The boss. Guess
Yeah,
who's the boss? You. Go figure
exactly.
it out, right?
So good. And also you were speaking to and you didn't use this word, but I'm going to use this word. It's like everyone is subjective, because when you were walking me through your self-care and having that at night, for me, I love to have self-care in the morning, but that's just because that's how I work better. I work better when I tend to, myself in the morning, and then at night I'm super creative and I just love to work and I can type and I do all these things, right? Like it's just being so honest and really naked with your truth around how do I work best? And can
Yeah,
I structure my time around that? And
exactly.
what's funny now we're talking about this, because I literally just did a Instagram live yesterday about recognizing where in your life what doesn't feel good for you, what doesn't feel in alignment. And whatever that is, you can consciously choose to change that and give it a new meaning. And the example I used was when I worked really, really hard, I actually didn't enjoy it. I was like burnt out. I was tired. I was, frustrated. I was cranky. I was neglectful of my relationship. And so I noticed that, oh, okay, working hard actually doesn't suit me. And you think about everything in this lifetime. And I'm not to say that I don't work hard. I absolutely do work hard. But instead of the mindset of like, oh, I can't be successful unless I work hard, I'm rewiring that belief that's in my subconscious mind that the more I play, the more I make more money. And
Yeah.
so, and I thought that was really relevant to bring up too, because truthfully, like this is really what living a life by design actually is. If you want to be someone who makes more, plays more, and that's how you make more money, then let that be your reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because nothing in this lifetime has meaning except for the meaning that you're giving it. So if you want your reality to be like, hey, actually, when I do take days off and when I do go play, I end up making more money.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
can be your new reality.
Well, and it's ironic in nature because it goes against popular belief. A lot of people think time and money are linear, and they're just not. Uh,
Hmm.
more time does not equal more money. In fact, if you work 24 hours of your day, that is every waking second, even seconds that you should be sleeping, if you're
Hmm.
working every single second of your day, good luck.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. You're not going to make money. You're not going to do it. You're going to burn out. You're going to crash and burn. Your clients are going to see it. You're going to be a mess. You're probably going to end up in a healthcare situation because you're not sleeping. So there's that. But there is a point of diminishing return where you don't. You're putting in more time, and you're compromising the results. And so this is actually something that I just created an episode on my podcast. I have a podcast called Empowered Talk with IFBB Pro Freddie Biggie Smalls. The two of us co-host this show together, and we just did a full episode on this. So if anybody wants to hear us talk a little bit more about it, I'm just plugging it in. Hope you don't
Yes,
mind,
you guys.
Sarah.
I don't mind at all. Please go support Ashley. Obviously, you guys are listening to her right now, and she's such a powerful woman. So, yes, go listen to her podcast. It's so, so good. And yeah, hell yeah.
This level of balance is a requirement for success, and there's a limiting belief around the fact that you just need to work hard, work hard, work hard, and it will pay off. Well, to a degree, it's not to say you don't work hard, just like you said, Sarah,
Mhm.
but I'm a firm believer in working smarter, not harder.
Mhm.
Still work hard, but in the essence of what you need to do more, it's working smarter. So being strategic, being comprehensive in your approach to things is different than being occupying all of your time. Does it
Yes.
make sense the way I'm
Yeah.
explaining that?
Totally. Yeah. It's amazing. And this is, I just love this. And I can talk to you for hours. We're already like 15 minutes over time. Of course, I knew this was going to happen because I can talk to you forever. So I want to say, first of all, thank you for sharing all of this knowledge. You guys, this is not an episode to just listen to. This is an episode to be studied. So go back and listen to it again. Seriously, like this is that important for your success. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I would even encourage you guys who are listening, go back, rewatch this, but do it with a pen and paper.
Yep.
Take notes, and like let us know, let Sarah and myself know like what really resonated with you and how can we help you evolve from your journey. Like give us some feedback too, because we're here for you guys. We're passionate and about what we're doing because you're doing what you're doing too. And
Mhm.
so we're here to help you, to support you, to organize your time, to help you figure this out. And, we're doing the same thing alongside, but we're just, it's like a mirror. We always talk about this. Sarah and I have talked about this previously, that, when you see somebody who's successful, some people get jealous and some people don't. And kind of the difference here is, we're kind of just mirrors of what is possible of a future version of yourself too. So if you're
Mhm.
feeling disorganized and you're like, oh man, I'm just like overwhelmed. I have so many things, so many responsibilities. I'm trying to build this business. I still have my other job. Like, fuck, how do I do
Yeah.
this? Get a piece of paper, get a pen, do yourself the honorable service, re-listen to this, do it multiple times if you need to. Play it while you're
Mhm.
in the shower, play it while you're making breakfast.
Yep.
The more that you sit with the language of the things that are going to be conducive to your ultimate success, you're going to embody it naturally. I always say, and I'm not the one who created this saying, but I've heard this and it resonates with me. So I always like to repeat it, that you are the culmination of the top 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Mhm.
Obviously you're listening to us. We're not with you in person, but we're with you in spirit, and we're with you in your world right now as you're listening to this. So allow us to be part of that. Allow us to be part of your top 5. Listen to us, submerge yourself in this language, in the goals, and subscribe to this so that you get
Yeah.
more, right? Like seriously, there's nothing more like that I'm more passionate about other than my business and everything else. Like there's nothing else that I can drive home more, is that who you surround yourself with and the language that you hear and expose yourself to fucking matters like
Yeah.
so much. If you surround yourself with people who are doing, the opposite, maybe talking down and stuff like that, see how that works out for you. You're not going to
Exactly.
really get anywhere. So happy to be here. Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me
Yeah.
on this
Oh my
podcast.
God.
It's really
That made me want to even dive deeper into that. Oh my God. First of
we
all,
need to do another episode.
right? Well, we absolutely will have to. We
Absolutely.
definitely will. I'm so grateful for you. I'm going to end the podcast with asking you a question that I ask every single podcast guest. So just speak from your heart and tell us what you think about this. Okay. So obviously the name of the podcast is Pleasurable Success. So how can the listeners make their success a pleasure-filled experience?
Ooh, how can they make their experience a pleasure-filled experience? Is that what you just asked me?
Their experience, their success, a pleasure-filled experience.
Listen to your heart. Listen to what guides you and what feels intuitively right. Um, your body will let you know what's going on. If something is disempowering you, you're going to feel it in your stomach or in your chest or in your throat or in your head. Listen to those centers in your body as the feedback system that your body is. We are nothing more than this gigantic feedback system. Tap into that. Don't ignore it. Follow that, open your heart, and allow that to guide you.
I love it. I love hearing every single one's answers because they're all so different and they're all so true. You guys, your success can be a pleasure-filled experience. You can love the journey of your success and not just focus so outcome oriented. And so I'm so happy that you said that. Listen to your heart, listen to your body, trust it, and Everything will be good.
Sir, amen.
I love it. So yes, as Ashley mentioned earlier, you're not only just the people that you surround yourself with. Your diet isn't just about your food. It's also about what you listen to. So go back, listen to this episode again. It's that important. Ashley, where can they find you?
You guys can find me. I have all different types of social medias, or you can go straight to my website is empowerbodies.org. On Instagram is my main social media platform. My handle is empowerbodiesofficial. I have my podcast, which is empowerbodies.org/empowered talk is the landing page for that. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible, all these different platforms. So many different ways. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm here for you guys to support you. If you DM me in any capacity, it's me. I answer everyone. I don't have people running my social media. I've gone down that path before, and it's just not the right alignment for my success, right? And bringing us back to that. So if you guys need any help, I'm here to support you guys. And I hope that some of you could take some nuggets from this episode here and embody that throughout your day and help empower your world.
Yes. And all of her information, as always, for every guest, it's in the show notes. Go check her out. You guys, she's changed. You know what? I didn't even say this. So I'm going to take a moment to just praise you, Ashley. You guys, she has transformed my life and my body so much. I hired her as my personal trainer back in July, and she's taking me from like really weak and very thin and not strong to really empowered and loving and in love with my body and super strong physically and mentally and emotionally. Ashley, I am forever grateful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming on here and speaking to my audience and just gifting this world with your magic. Don't stop ever, 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 because you're so empowering and so inspiring. And for the listeners, take note. Ashley, like she said, she's just a reflection of what's possible for all of you. So check her out, subscribe to the podcast, send us some love if you enjoy this episode, and get out there and time block your week. Love you guys and have a beautiful day.